Yes sir, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy Denali, aka Don Squally, and we are back at it with yet another G35 video. Now for those of you guys who have been subscribed to the channel for quite some time, know that I do have a set of Tein, I'm not really sure. I have a set of Tein street basis coilovers on this G35. Now when I did the install video on these coilovers, I basically set them to the recommended height settings that Tein, I don't know. I basically set these coilovers to the ride height that Tein would recommend you set them at from factory, which was just about 2 inches both front and back for the sedan. Now with the street basis coilovers, as a lot of you guys may know, the height adjustment isn't exactly the same as, let's say, a full dampening or true coilover setup. Now I'm going to show you guys what I mean by that once we get this thing up in the air and take the wheels off. But what I want to do before we get into that is basically just measure the front and the back ride height, since we are on pretty much a level surface inside the garage here. I'm going to do a quick measurement of the front, do a quick measurement of the rear, and then we're going to essentially max out these coilovers. I know they're not actually a coilover, more of a shock strut combo, aftermarket, height adjustable. So what I'm going to do is essentially max these springs out to their lowest height. Now the biggest problem with the street basis coilovers is you don't have the dampening adjustability, and when you mess around with the ride height on the front, you also have to, well, it's kind of the same adjustment. When you lower the car, you're also changing the spring preload, which is why for the last couple years since I've owned this car, I just ended up going with the settings that, you know, they recommend from the factory. But I do have a couple of things that I want to do with, to this car to improve the aero and overall look in the near future, and one of those things is getting this thing as comfortably low as I can get it. So what I'm going to do is take a few measurements, show you guys what we got to do in order to adjust this thing, take it for a spin around the block, and see exactly how low we can get these street basis coilovers. So with that being said, stay tuned. Alrighty, so first things first, we are going to start with the front tires. As filthy as they are, you know, I guess we could give them a little bit of a wash once this video is done, but for the sake of today's video, I'm not even going to worry about that. But we're going to go ahead, take our measurement from the highest point of the front wheel arch, and we are at about 26 inches off of the ground, which is about 2 feet 2 inches there, as you guys can see. I don't know if you can see, maybe if I put it the right side up. We're at about 26 there on the front, almost exact actually. And then we are going to come back here to the rear. Not nearly as much brake dust. You can definitely tell which brakes on this car do the most braking. And we're going to go ahead and take one more measurement, and it looks like we're sitting at just about 25 3/8, just under 25 and a half. Right about there is where we were. So we're gonna say 25 and a half just for a rough estimate here. So it looks like the rear is sitting a ½ inch lower than the front right now. So I'm gonna go ahead, jack the front up first, I guess. Pop off these tires, and I'm gonna show you guys exactly what we gotta do to get this thing more low. Okay, so passenger tire is off, and as you can see, we have our adjustments right here. Now on a typical coilover or a true coilover setup, you'll actually have another set of collars a little bit lower that you will loosen up, and then you can actually twist this bottom piece or twist the coilover into the bottom piece, and that will adjust your ride height. But as you can see with the street basis, we only have one set of adjustment rings right here. So what I'm going to do is loosen up this bottom ring, spin it all the way to the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and snug up this ring to the bottom ring, and that will give us our height adjustment. Now like I say, this will also adjust the spring preload, so I'm not too sure how this is going to ride after I adjust this, but for the low, it's a risk that I'm willing to take. So I've got my spanner wrenches here. If you don't have these, you can use just a little screwdriver and a hammer and lightly tap this the opposite direction until that loosens, but I do have the spanner wrenches, so I'm gonna go ahead, lower this coilover right now and show you guys what it looks like. Alrighty, so I ended up having to use a screwdriver and a hammer just to loosen this bottom coil. They haven't been touched since I put them on this car, so as you can see, just lowering that bottom coil, and then I'm gonna now use the spanner wrench, hopefully, and lower this top coil all the way down. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, show you guys what it looks like. Alrighty, so as you can see, I've got the top collar all the way down and locked into place. Now, with that collar all the way down, you're gonna notice the spring has a little bit of play. Now, once the car lowers and this shock compresses, this is gonna go back to where it needs to go. Now, the only thing is, if you were to hit a bump and this, tire was to come all the way down, there is a potential for some knocking here with it picking up off of the actual spring perch. But with this being a lowered car, chances are we're probably not going to be catching too much air with it, so I'm not too worried about it. So I'm going to go ahead, put the tire on this side, jump to the other side, do that one. I'm not going to show you that because we already showed you how to do the fronts. Then we're going to hit the rear. Alrighty, so driver's side is done. Literally took me like, I don't know, 2 minutes. So I'm gonna put the fronts down, jack up the rear, and yeah, man, it's moving along quite nicely. Alrighty, and here we are at the rear. Now what we're gonna do is the same thing, except this time we're gonna take the top collar, spin it all the way up, do the same with the bottom collar, and then tighten everything. Now, one thing I do remember with lowering the back is I did have better luck. It was much easier if I took this bolt out, put the jack under here, relieve the pressure, but I'm gonna try to do it without doing that just because it's one extra step, and I feel like I can get this done a little bit quicker. So I'm gonna go ahead, take care of that right now, and yeah, we should be good. Alrighty, so really not a whole lot of room to get the wrench in here. Now I did loosen it with the hammer, but it's super tight. So what I think I'm gonna do is go ahead and loosen up this bolt real quick and just pull this lower cup out and then make the adjustment. Now again, if you have a true coilover setup, you're gonna have a spring right here which you can make your height adjustment, and this spring right here on most true coilover, well, any true coilover setup, this is, like I say, a strut and spring setup. Any true coilover setup will have this deleted and just your adjustment right here. Alrighty, so I ended up popping out the rear little lock collar setup here, and it's a little bit corroded, so I was having trouble getting it all the way to the end. Now, if we were having trouble and we weren't getting low enough, we could essentially take both of these collars out, and then the spring would essentially just sit on this lower ring right here. I'm not gonna do that because I know the rear is gonna sit quite a bit lower than the front as it is. Now, if I do need to get lower in the front, I can always disassemble the coilover, remove the bottom ring, and then I'd have whatever this is, a 1/4 inch of extra lowness. But I don't think I'm gonna do that because that requires taking all the suspension out. What I think I'm gonna do is completely max this out, see where we sit, and then later on in another video, I'll probably go ahead and adjust the back just to match the front. Alrighty, so passenger rear is all done. Now, I couldn't get this upper collar all the way up. The threads actually stop at a certain point, which is why there's a little gap here. So if the ride height isn't good enough, or I want to get a little lower in the rear, I'll probably go ahead and remove this upper ring and just slide this one all the way up. But for now, I think I'm just gonna leave it in the way that it is. Do the same with the other side, make sure that they're even, and see where we're sitting. I'm getting hot, so I want to get this done. Alrighty, so rear driver side is done. I just had a lot of luck taking this bottom bolt out. Are we focused? I think so. I just can't see because it's dark. We had a lot of luck taking this bottom bolt out. That helped. Just took the whole bottom adjuster. Man, there's no light on this side. Oh, I'm zooming in. I'm zooming in, that was the problem. Ah, there we go. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so took this bottom bolt out, found it a lot easier. Just took the adjuster cup right out, hammered it as best I could, as tight as I can. Like I say, the threads stop at a certain point, so you can't max it all the way out. But if I recall correctly, lowering the back makes us tuck quite a bit. So I'm gonna go throw this back wheel on, lower this thing on the ground, then probably take it for a rip because I think this thing's gonna need to settle with a little drive around the block. Alrighty, so I've got the rear wheels all torqued down, front wheels are all torqued down. Now one thing I wanna do is take this thing for a little rip around the block just to let the suspension settle into where it's gonna sit before I take my final measurements. So let's jump up in the whip here. Go for a little rip, man. Yo, shout out SoCal G, VQ North. Can't forget the squad, strictly VQ. What up? Oh, what up, what up, what up? Can't lie, it's been a few days since I've driven this bad boy. Whew, it is hot in here. No demonetization. All right, let's go for a rip. Alrighty, so far ride's pretty decent. Still relatively cold, but I am gonna take it for a rip. Get her up to about, I don't know, 70, 80 kilometers. Take her back home, see what we're sitting at. Give her a little 1-2 here. Oh, traction. I guess the old 1, 2, 3, 4. Now comes for the fun part. A lot of people don't know my driveway's a nightmare here. I don't know what that was scraping, but something definitely was. Yeah, to be honest, that sounded like the fender on the fender well, but as long as we only get it going in and out of my driveway, that's cool. If I reverse out of my driveway at the wrong angle, I've messed up my diffuser a couple times, man. It's pretty nasty. It's quite a hill, but you know, not too bad. Alrighty. Didn't hit anything. Let's go see how low we are. Alrighty, so we are back in the garage, and as you can see, the rear has definitely settled quite a bit. The front, not so much. Pretty much where it was once I lowered it off of the jack stands. Yeah, the rear definitely doesn't look like it went down that much, but the front is quite a bit lower. But the only way to truly find out is grab the tape measure from somewhere and take our official measurements here. Gonna set you guys up on the tripod right here. Now, if you guys remember, we had 26 inches from the ground to the top of the wheel arch, and it looks like we're right about 25 inches, maybe just a little bit lower than 25 inches. So we gained 1 inch of lowness on the front, which is good. That makes about 3 inches in total from the stock height. And if we come back here from the rear, we have about, dang, 25 and a half, maybe 25 and a quarter, barely. We only got lowered about a 1/4 inch on the rear, so most certainly what I'm probably gonna do is go ahead and remove those rear top rings from the back. But I don't think I'm gonna be doing that in this video, since I wanted this one to be basically just how to slam your Tein street bases coilovers with, you know, the way that they come from the factory or in the box that you get them. I'll probably make another video on how to get extra low out of your Tein street base. Tein, I don't freaking know, man. Out of your Tein street bases coilovers, and I most certainly am probably gonna do the collar mod on the rear, because as you guys can see, we are just about tucking tire on the front, which is a lot more than we had going on the front before we lowered this car. And on the rear, and the tripod's in the way, we have about, if we were to get in there exactly straight, there's no finger gap because I am touching the tire right there, so we're, I guess, almost tucking. probably more so flush. So I'm gonna most certainly do the collar mod on the rear. I don't really want to take apart the front struts because it's kind of a pain in the ass. But let me know in the comments if you guys do want me to do that. Whew, it is hot as hell, so I do need to get this video over with soon. Now, one thing that kind of boggles my mind with the setup, I was expecting to get more low in the rear and a little bit, I was expecting to be too satisfied with the way the rear sat and not satisfied enough with the way that the front sat, meaning that I wasn't expecting to get this low in the front where we're pretty much tucking tire, and now in order to even out, I feel like we're gonna have to make the rear just a little bit lower. But damn, that is looking absolutely mint. Now, one thing I am noticing is when you lower cars and the tops of the rims kind of camber in a little bit at the top, you'll notice that we're losing quite a bit of poke as far as the hella flush fitment. You can see we got quite a bit more camber here, but as you guys know, I am on the hunt for some new wheels so that we can fit those Wish fender flares on there. But like I say, I do have a couple of things that I do want to get done, mainly aero-wise and looks-wise. We are going to be going for that tune next month. Hold me to it, because if I don't, you guys just make some comments. When's the tune coming? Because I've been saying that forever, but I do want to get the tune done soon because the season's coming to a close, man. Well, not really to a close, but summer is moving fast, so I want to get this thing back to the track with a nice sticky set of tires for the rear and see if we can beat that 14.1. But I'm feeling like we've been rambling on for quite some time, and this video is probably getting a little bit long. So as always, let me know what you guys think of the new stance. I'm gonna try to get a little stance boy shot here. Let me know what you guys think of the new stance. Now, not nearly as dramatic as other sets of coilovers would be absolutely maxing them out, but for the street basis, I'm thinking they are looking super fresh, man. So as always, I'm your boy Denali, aka Don Squally. I need some water and a beer ASAP. I'm dying, man. We're gonna catch y'all mofos at the next one, man.